Sometimes our greatest fears can lead to amazing discoveries. I'm 7 years old, and my family is driving to the flu shot clinic. As I'm moving through the familiar streets towards the doctor's office, I have knots in my stomach, and I'm on the verge of crying. Once we arrive, my mom has to force me out of the car to get in line. I can't stand still because of the nerves, and as we get closer to the table at the front, my fear worsens. As my mom checks me in a minute later, I close my eyes, and I can imagine the terrifying needle puncturing my arm. And that's when I run, in search of a safe place where I won't need to experience the pain of a shot. I find the bushes in front of the clinic. As a small girl, the area feels big enough that nobody will get to me. I am safe. I've avoided my biggest fear, but then I hear rustling in the bushes. I'm crouching in my hiding spot, and I realize that I may not be alone. Chills run down my spine, and I see a shadow lurking. I think there's a possibility something can still get to me. I begin to wonder, is it all in my head? There's only one thing that I fear more than shots, and that is rats. I begin to imagine their disease-ridden fur and long, dirty tails. And then I hear my mom's voice yell, "Zoe, there's rats in the bushes." My nightmare has become my reality. The idea of rats scurrying around me was enough to get me bolting back to my parents and dragged inside the clinic to be held down for my flu shot. These episodes of panic and fear are not unique to me. There are actually many children around the world who suffer from phobias like I did when I was younger. According to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, a phobia is an anxiety that's associated with a specific object or situation. A person with a phobia will avoid that particular object or situation, and when they are faced with it, they endure extreme anxiety or fear. Phobias can get in the way of normal routines and activities, and needle phobias are particularly prevalent among children, who, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, receive approximately 38 vaccines by the age of 18. As an experienced needle phobic, I wanted to do my part in fixing the issue. During my freshman year in high school, my dad and I were talking in the kitchen. And he mentioned that a lot of his patients immediately start crying when he walks into the room. He's a pediatric ophthalmologist, so he sees a lot of young children. He explained that parents always say, "It's not you. My child just received his or her shots the other day, and now they're afraid of doctors." Due to my personal experience with needle phobia, he asked me what I might do differently to make his patients less fearful. I remember that day in the bushes in front of the clinic, and I realized that my fear of rats was a distraction from my needle phobia. I had an epiphany. The antidote to fear is distraction. In our society, most people have felt fear that varies in degrees. Throughout time, we've tried different approaches to dealing with that fear. Have you ever been really afraid of something, but then another thing distracts you from that original fear? I wondered, what kind of distraction would be powerful enough to make kids forget their fear of needles? I remember being at my grandpa's house one day when he was showing me a virtual reality set, also known as VR, he had just received in the mail. The VR transported me to another world. I was using a roller coaster scene and running around the house giggling with my brothers. It was so much fun. I made a connection between how distracted I was with the goggles and how distraction helped my needle phobia, and realized that it might be an effective remedy. My dad loved the idea, and I decided to pursue it. I started researching virtual reality, and I met with Dr. John LaPuma to discover how I could implement my idea into a study. He explained that nature scenes induce relaxation, and it was best to use that instead of a roller coaster or a thrilling scene. I found a free aquarium virtual reality app that I put into goggles that I bought for $14. As you turn your head in the goggles, the scene follows your movement, allowing you to explore the depths of a virtual ocean with dolphins and sharks and fish. With the goggles, I contacted 2 local flu clinics where I could test my theory. The pilot study was extremely detailed. I administered different surveys to parents, children, and nurses in both controlled and experimental groups. This meant that for each patient in either of the two groups, 3 surveys were completed. On the surveys, I used a face pain scale, which most of you have probably seen, that ranged from 0 to 10, so that the parents, children, and nurses could rate their experience regarding the child's pain, fear, and ease of the needle. In addition, I asked questions about the child's pain and fear compared to prior shots, and whether they would want VR at a future visit. After analyzing the data from my surveys, I concluded that there was a 50% decrease in pain and fear for children who viewed VR while receiving the flu shot. At one of the clinics where I conducted my study, there was a brother and sister who were infamous for their needle phobias. Every year, there was an hour-long ordeal to administer a 2-second shot to each of them. When they came into the clinic, I offered them each a virtual reality set. The sister refused, and her process was made very difficult by her fear. The brother accepted the goggles, was completely distracted by them, and his process was made much easier. Although this is just one example, this outcome was replicated many times over throughout the study. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, during 2019, 1,250 individual cases of measles have been confirmed in 31 states. This is the greatest number of cases reported in the US since 1992, and since measles was declared eliminated in 2000. In addition to this, 79,000 people in the US died of the flu during the 2017-18 flu season. Shots are a part of life for humans, and there are multiple reasons to get them. However, many people are too afraid. I want to support the medical community by making it easier for both doctors and patients to give and receive shots. If we can reduce the number of people who refuse medical attention due to fear, it would be extremely beneficial to our society. Using VR is a fun, easy, and inexpensive way to make trips to the doctor less scary. Today, the pediatric clinics at Sansum in Santa Barbara have VR sets that were donated for them to use. If we can implement this technology into clinics throughout the country and throughout the world, we could relieve stress for patients and medical personnel at the same time. Advances in medicine are happening constantly these days, and we can't let a fear of needles prevent someone from getting the help they need. The purpose of medical science is to keep people healthy. Yet, we are neglecting to let that happen due to a fear that can be alleviated with $14 technology. If you know somebody who suffers from needle phobia, recommend virtual reality to them or to your local clinic. Distraction is an accessible antidote to fear, even if it's a fear of rats in the bushes. Thank you.